Well, good morning. Oh, you guys got some work to do. First service, man, they were loud and rowdy. So I don't know what, you guys got some big shoes to fill. They laughed at all my jokes really loud. So I'm just going to say, hey, for those of you who don't know me, my name's Brent. I'm one of the pastors here at GMC, and I'm excited to be up here for the next several weeks spending time with you. But we're going to dig right in this morning. We're going to jump right in. While Jesus was on this earth, when Jesus was here on this earth, he had one mission. And in Luke chapter 19, verse 10, Jesus tells us what that mission was. He said, for the Son of Man came to seek, everybody say seek, and to save, everybody say save, what was lost. Jesus came to seek and to save the lost. And the ultimate fulfillment of that mission was Jesus dying a horrific criminal's death on a cross for the sins of mankind. He did that for you, and he did that for me. And 3 days later, he defeated death by rising from the grave. And if you've been following along in our church-wide reading plan, then you read about that this week in Mark chapter 16. And just before Jesus ascended into heaven, he said this to his disciples in Mark chapter 16, verse 15. He said, go into all the world and preach the good news to all creation. Seek and save. Seek and save. The Great Commission, right? It's a command to the disciples, and it's a command for you and I to go out and seek and save. What was once Jesus' mission has now become our mission. Go seek and save the lost. But the question to wrestle with this morning, the question we need to wrestle with is, can we miss it? Can we miss it? Our mission statement here at GMC, something you'll hear a lot around here, is love like Jesus and live like. Good job, good job. Sounds a lot like the Great Commission, doesn't it? We want you to go into the world around you. We want to go into the world around us, into our communities, and we want to love like Jesus and live like missionaries. Seek and save. We want to share Jesus with the people we interact with on a daily basis. That's who we are as a church. It's part of our DNA. But again, the question is, can we miss it? This morning, I want to take a look at the ending of a well-known Bible story. You may have heard this story multiple times. And what we're going to see, I think what we're going to see is how the disciples missed it. And if the disciples could miss it, the question then becomes, can we miss it? If you have your Bibles or Bible apps, you want to open up to John chapter 4. John chapter 4, take your time, hurry up. It'll also be on the screen as well. In John chapter 4, there's a story of Jesus and this woman at a well. The disciples had gone off on an errand, and Jesus wanders over to a well, obviously because he's thirsty, and there's a Samaritan woman there. And Jesus asks her to draw him some water, and they get into a conversation. Jesus is literally breaking social norms for this time. Men didn't speak to women in public. They actually thought they were better than them, and Jesus breaks right through that gender barrier. Jews didn't speak to Samaritans. They thought that the Samaritans were the worst humans ever. It was like Samaritans, IU fans, and then way up here are Jews. Jeez, hey, I'm going to take shots, right? I got the microphone. No, but Jews didn't speak to Samaritans. And Jesus breaks right through that racial barrier. And through this conversation, this woman realizes that Jesus is God. She said, I can see you are a prophet. You've told me all about my life. You've ministered to me in a way that no one else can. No one else has ever ministered to me this way. You must be God. And in John chapter 4, verse 27, it says this, just then his disciples returned and were surprised to find him talking with a woman. And they were surprised because of the reasons I just told you. So play this picture in your mind. There's a well, and you have Jesus and the Samaritan woman. They're around this well. They're talking. The disciples come back, maybe with a load of groceries from Walmart. We don't know. They were on an errand, and they walk up, and they were shocked. They were shocked. They were surprised. Now, here's the interesting thing to me. John goes on to include some details of the story that did not happen. If you're ever telling a story, you don't include the things that don't happen, right? Like you usually tell the things that do happen, the facts, right? Don't give me all that other stuff that happened. Just give me the fact. I just want the facts. Don't give me the stuff that didn't happen. But John here includes things that didn't happen. And I believe that maybe he included those things that didn't happen because there was some regret because they should have happened. You with me? The second part of verse 27 says this, but no one asked, what do you want? Or, why are you talking with her? In other words, when they returned, no one came up to Jesus and said, yo, JC, you need anything? You good, bro? Like nobody came and said that. That's probably the language they used, I'm sure. It's called courtesy. And John said nobody did that. He also said that no one asked him why he was speaking to a Samaritan woman. If your teacher or your mentor is doing something that you don't understand and you're surprised by something they are doing, the first thing you would do is ask, hey, Jesus, why are you talking with that woman? But nobody did that either. Why did John include things that didn't happen? And I believe it's only because he wished they had happened. Something else happened in the story that was very tragic. So they didn't ask Jesus if he needed anything, if he wanted anything. They didn't ask him why he was speaking to this woman. They weren't focused on Jesus. They were only focused on themselves. Sound familiar? And look at John chapter 4, verses 28 through 30. We're going to skip around a little bit. But John chapter 4, 28 through 30 says this, then leaving her water jar, the woman went back to the town and said to the people, come see a man who told me everything I ever did. Could this be the Messiah? They came out of the town and made their way toward him. So this woman had an interaction with Jesus. She's amazed. She goes back to her town. It wasn't very far away because they come back in a matter of minutes. And she tells everyone, hey, I think I found the Messiah. And now a town of people, led by this woman, we don't know how many people, maybe 50, are now making their way down this road towards Jesus and the disciples. It's awesome. And this woman is saying, there he is. That's the guy right there. That's him. And look what happens next in verse 31. It's tragic. Meanwhile, his disciples urged him, Rabbi, eat something. Rabbi, eat something. Now, you may not find that very funny, but I have a sense of humor, so I tend to read comedy into scriptures a bit. Like this whole town of people is coming out to get ministered to meet Jesus. And the disciples want to go to McDonald's. Or McDonald's if you're Lee. Like they're coming to get ministered. They're coming to meet Jesus. And the disciples are like, hey, you hungry? Should we go eat? I mean, I love to eat. You can look at me and tell me I love to eat. But that's just not the right time, obviously, right? So Jesus does what Jesus often would do, and that's when you bring up a topic, he will use your topic as a spiritual metaphor to teach you a spiritual truth. Look at verses 32 through 33. It says this. But he said to them, I have food to eat that you know nothing about. This is great. Look at how the disciples responded. Then his disciples said to each other, could someone have brought him food? Do you see how the disciples are missing it? Like, Jesus, did you have goldfish crackers in your pocket or something? What's going on, man? Like, did you already eat? You were supposed to wait until we got back, Jesus. They are missing it. Which brings us back to our question for today. If the disciples could miss the moment, if they could miss the opportunity, can we? Jesus goes on in verses 34 through 35. He says this, My food, says Jesus, is to do the will of him who sent me and to finish his work. He's like, look, guys, I'm not here to go to lunch with you. Don't you have a saying, it's still 4 months until the harvest? I tell you, open your eyes. Open your eyes. Turn to your neighbor and say, open your eyes. Hopefully their eyes are open. Vision is important. Vision is important. And if I could give everyone in this room a gift today, as you left church, I would give you the gift to see the world the way Jesus sees it. To seek and to save the lost. Because if we're honest with ourselves, the truth is we can get so wrapped up in our needs that we miss the fact that there are towns of people waiting to hear the good news of Jesus. We have to constantly maintain our vision, especially for lost people. Now, I don't have the very best eyesight. My eyes are actually pretty messed up. I have an eye disease that I was diagnosed with probably about 10 years ago or so. It's called keratoconus disease. That's just a really big word that says my cornea cones. And so when my cornea starts coning, I lose my vision. I can't see. Actually, my wife, Kara, went with me to an eye doctor appointment one time, and I had to take my contacts out so I could do the eye chart thing. And they sit down, and the lady's like, okay, I need you to read the lowest line you can read. And I say, E. And she says, go on. I said, no, that's the lowest line I can read. The very first line is one letter, E. And they're like, my wife's like, and I rode with you here? But I used to wear glasses. I have to wear contacts now. And I have hard contacts that sit on the white part of my eyes, and they help that curvature. But when I don't have my contacts in, I can't see anything. My vision is blurry. But the moment I put my contacts in, it's like everything's in high definition. Like I can see everything clearly. I remember when I was in elementary school, and it was like one of my first trips to the eye doctor. Now, if you've never been to the eye doctor, it's pretty different. You go to the eye doctor thinking they're going to help you see better, and what's the first thing they do? They make you see worse, right? The doctor puts you down. He's like, all right, I'm going to make you see worse. And after a while, the doctor had went out, and after a while, he comes back and he said, okay, we figured out your issue. We figured out your problem. You're nearsighted. And I remember thinking, that's not right. You have it backwards, doctor. I can see things near me. My issues are out there. But that's how they talk. You glasses people know what I'm talking about. It's literally the only medical profession who names your condition for what you're good at, right? Like it would be like you go to the hospital with a broken arm and they're like, well, your legs work, right? I know that. You're not supposed to talk about that. I need you to talk about the problem. What's the issue? But that's what they call it when you have far problems. They call it nearsighted. Can I share some truth with you this morning? I believe nearsightedness is a spiritual issue as well. Because when you are nearsighted, you are only focused on the things that are near you. You are only responsible for or even thinking about the things you can see. If you don't have vision, you're not responsible for what you cannot see. The disciples, they couldn't see the town coming out. And Jesus says, oh, I know what your problem is. You guys need to open your eyes. You guys need to see people the way I see people. Because if we're just truthfully honest this morning, there's a gravitational pull to selfishness in every single one of us. You leave me alone, I take care of me. There's this gravitational pull to selfishness in all of us, and that's even true of God's church. Getting a bit uncomfortable now, right? The disciples had a whole town wanting to come to get saved and meet Jesus, and they wanted to go to McDonald's. Listen, and I might make some of you mad this morning, but our job isn't just to get together with other believers and have great church services. We are called to bring life and hope into a broken world who really need Jesus. The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. We need more people who see the world the way Jesus sees the world. And I think if Jesus were standing here today, right here today, I think this is the message he would bring to his church. Because the most important thing Jesus came to do was to seek and to save those who are lost. And if there's one thing every Christian should be passionate about, it's lost people getting saved. Like, you should be passionate about that. My wife, Kara, and I, we have 4 kids. Our second youngest is Grady. Grady's 12. He's all boy. He's adventurous. He's loud, like his mom. He's active. He plays football and basketball. And when Grady was around 4 years old, we were at Kara's brother's house in Ohio for a birthday party. And Kara's brother's house is next door to her parents' house. And out back, there's a huge pond. Half the pond sits on her brother's property, half the pond sits on her parents' property, and the kids love the pond. There's actually a rule that you're not allowed to go in the pond until it's 70 degrees out. That's how much they love the pond. They love to be in it. So we're inside at this birthday party. There's a lot of people. She has a big family, lots of kids, and our kids are playing with their cousins. Everybody is having a great time. And every so often, Kara and I, we would walk around and we'd do a head count of our kids. That's how you know how you have too many kids. You got to go around and do a head count. So I go out and I do a head count, and I find everybody but Grady. So I go down to the basement, no Grady. I go in the toy room, no Grady. I go in the back bedrooms, no Grady. I go into the bathrooms, no Grady. And I began to panic a bit. I tell Kara I can't find Grady, and we begin to call his name. There's no answer. Now everyone is looking for Grady. I check the garage, no Grady. Maybe he went next door to his grandparents' house. I go over there, check the house, no Grady. I check Kara's dad's pole building, no Grady. At this point, I'm starting to freak out a bit. Like, I'm messed up. I can't find my son. He's lost. Did he take off down the street? At one point, I look over at the pond and I think, is he at the bottom of the pond? At one point, I was actually standing at the edge of the pond and I'm yelling his name, Grady, Grady, where are you? Did he wander back to the woods? We can't find Grady anywhere. Have you ever lost something of value to you? Like your keys, your wallet, a piece of jewelry, a kid, I don't know. When you do, when that happens to you, you are distracted by that which is lost, right? Like, all you can think about is that which is lost. In fact, you never do an inventory of the found things, right? Like, when you're looking for your lost keys, you don't go, well, there's my couch. You don't do that. You don't do that. All you can think about is that which is missing. It's all you can think about. You are blinded. You are distracted by the lost thing. I can tell you this. While we were looking for Grady, there was never a moment when I said, you know what? I have 3 other kids. 75% ain't bad. Right? Like, I'm still passing. C's get degrees, right? Don't listen to that, graduates. Do your best. You don't think like that. In fact, I will even go this far. I didn't even care about the other 3 kids in that moment, right? Like, this didn't happen, but if one of my other 3 kids would have come up to me and said, hey, Dad, what are we doing for dinner tonight? That's a great question if Grady isn't missing. It's a horrible question with him missing. Really, you want to talk about that? Help me find Grady. In Luke chapter 15, Jesus tells us 3 stories. He tells 3 stories in Luke chapter 15. Lost sheep, lost coin, lost son. Lost sheep, lost coin, lost son. And all 3 morals of the stories are the same. Jesus passionately tells these stories saying, look, I will leave all the other things I've found. I am distracted by the lost. I'm thinking about the lost. It's what I'm thinking about all the time, the lost. And if you've ever lost something of value to you, then you understand that. And as I'm standing by the edge of that pond, tears are coming down my cheek. I'm yelling Grady. I'm yelling his name out. Kara opens the door and yells to me, hey, stop crying, you big baby. No, that's probably what she wanted to say. But she yells out that they found Grady. Grady was in the toy room the entire time. He was tucked back in the corner. And when I looked in there, I couldn't see him because my vision was blocked by a bookshelf. And apparently it was too much effort for him to say, hey, I'm right here, when we're all yelling his name. But I can honestly say that day messed me up. Like, there are things in the Bible that I understand much better after having kids. I love my kids, not because of their performance, but because of their position in my life. They are my kids. And if one of my kids were lost, I would do everything in my power possible, and I would not stop searching until I found them. And folks, that's what we're called to do as a church. There are God's children who are lost, and he's asking us to do whatever we can, short of sinning, to find his lost children. But, and it's a pretty big but there's a gravitational pull to selfishness. You leave us alone, we'll just do stuff we like. Listen to me when I say this. Lunch was good for the disciples, not lunch was good for the town. You with me? Lunch was good for the disciples, not lunch was good for the town. Building churches that we like is good for us. Building churches that reach lost people is good for the lost. We have to open our eyes. We have to open our eyes. I want to close with a story that's found in the book of Mark, Mark chapter 8, verses 22 through 25. Kevin touched on this story a couple weeks ago where a blind man came to Jesus. And Jesus lays his hands on this guy, this blind guy, and Jesus asks him, hey, what do you see? And this blind man says, I see men that look like trees. Remember the story? I have a question for you. How does a blind guy know what trees look like? Right? How does a blind guy know what trees look like unless at some point in his life he could see and then he lost his vision? Something happened and he lost his vision. You with me? It's really the only way. And the next line says, once more, Jesus puts his hand on him. I believe there are people sitting right here this morning who've had that first touch from Jesus. Like I imagine at some point in your life, you were passionate, you cared about lost people, you thought about the people you were going to seek and save, like you had vision. And something happened, time passed, and now you've ended up with tree sight. You don't have eyesight, you have tree sight. It's not as bad as being blind, but it's not as good as it should be. And here's what I need you to hear this morning. We serve a once more kind of God. We serve a once more kind of God. One more time, Jesus put his hand on this guy, and the Bible says that when he did, he could see everything clearly. There are people in this room this morning who need once more kind of vision. To see everything clearly once again. To burn with passion for the lost once again. To see people in this world the way that Jesus sees them. Let's end this morning back where we started. Mark chapter 16, verse 15. Jesus said, go into all the world and preach the good news to all creation. Do you know good news is only good news if we share it? Right? Kevin and Jana having a brand new baby on Thursday is only good news to all of us if they share it with us, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't know any better. Go into all the world and preach the good news to all creation. Jesus' mission was to seek and to save the lost. And he's now inviting us in on that exact same mission to seek and to save, to love like Jesus and live like missionaries in our communities every day. To bring life and hope into a broken world who really need Jesus. And the question this morning is, are you missing it? Are you missing it? Dear Jesus, we're just so thankful for the time to gather here, Father, to dig into your word. And Father, I pray that you would help our hearts break for the things that break your heart. Father, I hope that we would get out of our way and get out of your way, Father, that we would, when selfishness would start creeping in, Jesus, that we would realize that you've come for so much more. Father, there are literally towns of people waiting to hear the good news. Father, help us to be your vessel. Help us to shine in the dark spots. Father, help us to seek and to save. Help our minds to be distracted by the lost. Give us the courage to step out of our comfort zones and to share the good news. We love you, Jesus. It's your name we pray. Amen.